I think trends in cyber for the short term, I think we will continue to see a steady flow of the old favourites. I think phishing attacks, brute forcing attacks against kind of weak passwords, it doesn't seem to matter how much the security industry makes these points, they're still really, really common. So, you know, a really recent malware attack, or certainly this year, was the Fritz Frog malware, which in itself was a relatively complex malware, but the way that it initially gained access into infrastructure was by brute forcing SSH passwords, despite the fact that the guidance has been very clear for a number of years now that really isn't the way to do things. So I think we're always going to see that. I think phishing attacks are getting more and more convincing, and perhaps there is a part to play there for artificial intelligence, machine learning type technologies. So the introduction of things like deepfakes can start to make targeted phishing campaigns much more realistic, particularly with the inclusion of images and videos. They kind of naturally, I guess, play to people's trust in people they know, or perhaps TV personalities, etc. And we've seen that being used not just in targeted cyber campaigns, but in various kind of political campaigns around the world as well. And that really does make it difficult for kind of the average person, I guess, who's perhaps not live into these technologies. Makes it more difficult to distinguish something that's real from something that isn't. I think those attacks have come quite a long way. In terms of other more interesting, I guess, cyber trends, I think there will be an increase in the kind of targeting of public software repositories. So things that developers at large are relying upon, things like the NPM repository for JavaScript, the Docker Hub for containers. I think these are almost kind of supply chain style attacks on the kind of core building blocks that people are using to build software and infrastructure in the cloud. And I guess sometimes those things are taken for granted. It's published on Docker Hub, therefore it must be safe. And we've seen a number of instances where that just isn't the case. And I guess finally, kind of on the theme of supply chain, there was a really big kind of scheme uncovered towards the tail end of 2018 with Supermicro and the kind of inclusion of some extra silicon on their hardware, which was really quite damaging, I think. And it got all the way into AWS inside their government region. There were rumors of Apple having consumed some of this hardware, so some of the really big tech giants. And this stuff is famously hard to detect, and no one really knows how long the Supermicro scheme had been going on for. And I suspect that we will start to see more of those things being uncovered, which I guess leans more towards some of the tech that we've been pushing and some of the emerging trends we're seeing in supply chain management, things like blockchain, where we start to understand the provenance of where things have come from. But it's equally valid to apply that to software as it is hardware, right? Which is where we get back to the kind of software repositories being compromised right from the very beginning, and therefore having such a great reach across the internet.